how have you used your expertise and your experiences to build like a real strong, truthful connection to your communities? You can go. You're looking at me, Miranda, so you can go first.
I can start off with that one. So I came online first as a child actor, which is my past lore, and then had kind of built a platform from there and found a true sense of purpose when I was in college, diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer at 19 with no family history, and felt this kind of pull and need to share with my audience and connect to young women. When it comes to credibility and knowing things, I think I've gained my credibility from admitting that I do not know everything. I have a young audience of women who trust me with decisions that they make that affects their lives, and a lot of medical questions that I get in my DMs, and I gain my credibility by prefacing, I don't know everything. You do need to consult a doctor. However, I will tell you what lymphedema sleeve I use, or how medically induced menopause affects fertility, et cetera, in my own personal opinion. So I think I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know everything. And while I've become quite well versed in the health and wellness world as it pertains to women's health, I don't know everything. It's a super complicated world. And I think you can tell when someone's phony from the moment that they say that they're an expert. And some people are, of course. Yeah. It depends.
And it's also, fascinating that, your own health battle kind of has led to this and kind of has provided the setup for this, which is the silver lining for sure, right?
Like silver lining, but also sucks. Like wouldn't choose it, wouldn't recommend, but brought me here in some regards. So definitely a double-edged sword. I try and add some nuance that I'm not necessarily grateful for the experience, but I am, excited about what has come from it.
Very cool. And Jeneé, you had a career in fashion and then made the leap to social media. Tell me about how your experience now drives your current community and group.
Yeah, when it comes to especially being meaningful to my audience, it was my background. So I always worked in fashion and retail. That's what my degree is in. And I found myself really hating when people would say, "Oh, I love that on you, but I could never pull it off." That's really what made me start my content creation online.
You know what my saying is? If you can put it on, you can pull it off.
Hello? And that's what I would tell them. So that's kind of how I got online, is like, okay, well, let me show you. Maybe it's not as simple as it is in my mind. So maybe if I share more of my thought process, that will help. And that's where my expertise comes in, making sure I share the foundational pieces of getting dressed, because it's all about making you feel like your best self. And I always say clothes are armor to go out into the world, feel empowered, and do all the things, all of the goals, all the things that you want to do in life. But if you don't set yourself up for success and put that armor on, then you won't be as successful or feel your best to be as successful. So that's how I use my expertise and connect with my audience, and also show this is a thought process for me too. I don't claim to be the best dressed person in the world or the person that has all of the knowledge, but I'm happy to share what I know, and hopefully you can feel more confident.
Wow, I love it. In Stephen's background, Stephen was in college. Rutgers, wait, by the way, there's 3 New Jersey people on the stage. New Jersey is like the home of creators, which is big. Are you from New Jersey?
No, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
We all can't be perfect from New Jersey. But Stephen was a chef at one of the top restaurants in the world, and then took his knowledge to the internet. So tell me about that connection and how you made that leap from being in a working kitchen to being a creator.
So I think it's incredibly interesting because, unlike many other people, when I started, I dropped out of college at Rutgers and I went to culinary school, and I kind of began documenting the journey from then. But things really picked up when I went to the restaurant, because credibility really scales with lived experiences, and kind of over time it's built. And so what was important to me, and I think is important that I've noticed across all our stories, is kind of this method of teaching, this thought process behind the fact that you're bringing information to people. And it's obviously very specific to ourselves. However, somehow we all came across the importance behind educating others through what we're learning. And that's kind of how I found it through working in a restaurant. There's an immense type of culture within restaurants that is a hierarchy to follow other people's orders and to kind of keep things secretive. And I personally didn't think that me going through the entire experience was something that I could keep to myself. not only because it was a method for me to practice more and understand more about what I was learning myself, but also because for other people that were uneducated and didn't understand in an industry that's so mysterious and kind of veiled in mystery and a history of things that are not so desirable for media to be sharing, I felt like it was within my opportunity to show people that. And so just the fact of me being a chef and working at a restaurant of that caliber, people accepted it more readily, and it was kind of an incredible side-by-side process, growing from a culinary student to a chef and then being able to share all of it as well.
I was going to say, I think the more you share the process and the background, the credibility you gain also. I always like to go back and tell people where I started. I managed a retail store before I became a creator with 300 employees. Before that, I was like a stylist and worked in several department stores. But the more you, even if it's not your current, the more you go back and kind of share that expertise, it lends to the credibility and the fact that you love and enjoy what you're doing. And even if the people weren't there, you'd be doing it anyway.
When you all have, special communities, special sectors, before you post, do you think about what your community wants? Or do you post about what I think is interesting and the community will like it? I have other people that dig through their comments for inspiration. Like, tell me what your thought process before you hit post on those videos.
I always say I work in the service industry. So I work for people, so I always think about what people want to hear, what they need to see, what would be helpful today. And I always say I don't come online to look pretty. So if the caption is that I look cute today, that's probably not a good day to post because I don't have anything relevant to say. There should always be a message, even if we do look cute. Like, there should be something that I'm talking about. Is it a sale, or is it something that's just going on in the world? Is it something I want to share? Is it a tip? Is it a styling thing? What are they going to gain from what I'm posting?
I think my inspiration completely comes from myself. Like, I've had a lot of amazing viral moments that have come from me being so appalled or outraged or fascinated or inspired by something. Like, the other week, I found out that aluminum deodorant isn't actually linked to breast cancer. And I was like, what the actual F? Because I grew up in like an almond mom household, and my mom would always say, like, natural deodorant always. And I'd be like, well, I smell like shit, so I'd like to be using normal deodorant. We never had aluminum deodorant in our household. Then did some digging, found out aluminum deodorant, there's just been like all of these misconceptions that have essentially built out the natural deodorant sector or market, and it's not actually linked to breast cancer or Alzheimer's. So I had to do some fact checking. I went to my oncologist, who's also on social media, which is just iconic of both of us. And I said, is this true? And she sent me a bunch of articles. I shared them with my audience. And I was like, girls, we don't have to smell bad anymore. Like, back to aluminum. And girls were freaking out about this because everyone's tired of smelling like shit. So we're back on aluminum deodorant, okay?
Brought to you by Dove, everybody. Dove deodorant. Okay. Stephen, how do you think about you're going to post? Are you strategic? Are you like more just feeling just more go with your gut? What do you go with?
For me, I think the things that I share are a lot about teaching and concepts that people might not understand unless explained by someone who does understand them. And so for me, it's more so about being intentional in what I'm saying, and not necessarily when I hit post, but rather when I'm recording the video, when I'm going through it. And I think to me, it brings it back to awareness. And within this world of algorithms and AI, it's just an incredible battle with awareness, because most people don't understand that they can't control the algorithm. They're surrounded by these things and these systems that are entirely a part of their livelihood, their life, their careers even, like ours. And so the more people believe that they can control that, the actually less control they have, less freedom they have. And so I feel like being intentional about how you present yourself when you're recording, when you're editing, when you're going through all that entire process before sharing it to a community that you've either built with you or built because of, certain topics that you think are controversial or that align with them. I think that it's all about intentionality, and it's kind of like when you come to that awareness, it becomes so much easier because it becomes all about yourself. And so your community responds best to, in my opinion, things that you care about yourself, and that is, self-inflicted, and that's entirely personal and selfish in a way. But by being aware of your space and how the systems affect you, then it becomes very much so for the people, even though it is entirely about yourself.
I'm glad you brought up AI, because that was my next question. It seems like AI and AI content is very much at odds with truth and credibility. How do you all view AI? Do you use it for your planning, and where do you see AI coming? Sorry, where do you see AI going when it comes to connections with community?
I mean, I think when we think about AI, people love to put it in its own separate category, and there's a whole rise against it. And I think when you're talking about credibility, people think that AI can have no involvement there because it is made by humans, but it runs itself. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced than saying, boycott AI, don't use AI content. That's not gonna happen. It's like when we first invented light, everyone was freaking out and they were like, don't put light anywhere. This shit makes everything bright. Everyone's scared, like, get it out of here. And that's the kind of attitude we have towards all types of new massive inventions that take the world by storm. So I think to say AI and credibility can't go hand in hand, or AI can't enhance someone's credibility, is complete bogus, and I think that's naive. I use AI all the time to research. I use it to enhance captions that I write. I use it to clean things up. I don't think that takes away from my credibility. I think it makes my information more easily delivered and understandable to my audience. I think that's a beautiful thing. Some people might disagree. I think that's stupid. So.
Wow, very cool.
I think it's a tool. I think it's something that shouldn't be relied on. And I think that's what people, our audiences, are trying to discern. And I think we'll see more of that discernment happening into the future. But I also think that's where we can create a stronger community and bond with people, because they're going to rely more on our honesty and the communication between us to not feel like, oh, this is just ChatGPT, or this is just, you just got this from anywhere, and is this really your thoughts? I think, things like going live and being able to interact and them see your, enthusiasm and excitement about certain topics, and you actually delivering certain messages will be even more important as we go into the future.
I also just want to jump in here with, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Going live is such a huge thing that I think we're going to see a lot more drive towards live streaming and in-person events. I think people are going to crave to see their favorite creators in-person forums where you can show up and see someone IRL, and that's going to be a whole new market.
Oh, very cool. How do you use AI, Stephen?
I think AI is completely inevitable, and so it's incredibly important to think about how we use it in the future. The great thing, in my opinion, about AI is that it actually makes credibility much more important in this current and upcoming future, because AI creates an abundance of content. And as content becomes infinite, what's actually becoming more scarce is trust. And so in using AI to go over the things that you can't control, like I mentioned, awareness of how algorithms affect our life, by understanding that algorithms are not within our control, but AI scales perfectly with algorithms and understands how to break those down for you, you can focus on the things that are important, like creation. And so that's like, for me, I love to use AI as a method rather to take over the things that I understand that are outside of my capabilities, while being able to further the things that I would love to do. For example, like if I love to learn how to cook, I would be able to do that even better with the assistance of AI, not to think that it takes away from anything I do.
Have you used AI for recipes?
I personally have used AI for recipes in terms of scaling. Up to 20 guests, 40 guests, 120 covers, things like that. I mean, it's very interesting because AI in the world of kitchens is not very feared. In many industries, AI is very scary because it can take over the work of many things that people can do. But within cooking, chefs are very much so egotistical, but for a reason, because they've been through many, many experiences to get to the point that they have. And so AI doesn't threaten them. However, it does threaten the culture, flattening of culture, flattening of historical impact of sharing recipes, handing things down. And so that's why it's rejected, even though it can do the things that cooks traditionally are not very good at. Academia, being able to handle logistics. That's just truthfully not what they're good at. And AI would help them so immensely with that.
You guys have all such strong communities. Really quick, tell me, what's one thing that people get wrong about being a creator? What's the big misconception?
I would say the thing people get wrong as creators is I always say I'm taking care of future me. I'm making sure she's set up for success. So I think every move that you make, I'm always thinking, will I be embarrassed about this? Will I be proud of this? Will I be excited I worked with this brand in 5 years, in 10 years? Even when you're thinking about like the trajectory of your career, I always used to tell myself, well, what if I'm on the Today Show in 5 years? Will I be proud to say I did this thing? Or will this name that I, came up with for this segment, will that make sense? Or will I be excited to talk about this thing? Or will I feel a little cringe and embarrassed? I always think about like, what is future me gonna feel? And is she gonna be proud? And is this gonna make sense? Or am I gonna look back and have a lot of regret?
Oh, very cool. Stephen?
I think the one thing I think that everyone gets wrong about creators is that things are much more intentional than they seem. Absolutely everything that we touch, that we create, whether or not that it seems like it, in the essence of us creating for other people and distributing to other people, there's a sense of responsibility because the impact that we have is noticeable, and also not only that, but in a protection to ourselves. As creators, we always face the impacts and risks that when we serve messages to other people, we face those consequences immediately. And so you have to understand that when we release a piece of content, the perception that we've created for ourselves, for that to be received well or received not properly, is all intentional.
And you've thought through every piece of it. The idea.
All right, Miranda, take us home. You're the final word.
Not everything I do is intentional. I think I make mistakes all the time. And yes, of course, I would love everyone on the internet to love me, but that's just not the reality that any of us are living in. So while we should think about our impact, and I think we're living in an age where people do come to us, me specifically, for medical advice, they gain their political opinions based on some of the things that I say. Of course, I have a lot of responsibility in that regard. I'm also a 24-year-old young woman who has no idea what I'm doing. So as much foresight as I can have, I think people need to realize that creators are places for entertainment and of course education, but also like just humans. And there's an amazing parasocial relationship that we truly all wish to have with our audiences. And that's also, gonna come with criticism. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but I wish people understood that creators are just humans, and a lot of us are gonna make mistakes time and time and time again, and it's kind of fun for people to watch that too. We all like to see people fail and then try again, so can't fault them for it.
Awesome. Well, no one failed today on stage, so thank you so much for this awesome conversation. Thank you all for your time and attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.